We now need to look at how we can make use of a prototype, which is the inheritance portion of OOP with a factory function. In order to do this, we need to talk about the object.create static method. So we will do that first and then jump back into factory function example in the next video. Now, object.create, the purpose of it is to create a new object using an existing object as a prototype. So that seems to be the perfect command for what we're trying to accomplish here. Let me first go to the console and we'll create a simple object here. Let obj equal, and here's how we use object.create. It's a static method, so we specify object with the uppercase O dot create. Now inside of the parentheses here, this is where we pass in an object that will be the prototype for this new object we've just created. So I could make that a blank object. I could also pass in null if I didn't want it to have a prototype. Right now I'll do a blank object. We press return. Now we have an object. It's an empty object, but it has a prototype. On the prototype, there's not really anything, but the prototype of that prototype has some stuff. So we're connected to a prototype chain automatically. All right, now we could begin to add things to this. Add a name, add my own name to that. And we begin adding properties to that object. And we still have the prototype connected. It's still there. So anything that was added as a part of the prototype will continue to be there for us. Now, let's go ahead and do this with an actual prototype. So in order to do that, I want to set up an object. I'm going to call it obj_proto. This will be our prototype object. Just going to create it with object literal syntax here. I'm just going to add a method. It's going to be a greet method, and all it's going to do is log to the console. And I'm going to create a template string here. And then grab a name property from the object. And that's what it's going to display on the console. Simple as that. All right, so here we have our prototype object. Now that we have our prototype object set up, we can use object.create to create an object that uses that prototype. So let's do this. Object.create. Now in parentheses, as I said, this is where we pass in the prototype object. So obj_proto. So that's going to create an object, and then I'm going to add a name property to the object. All right, let's take a look at this. obj, we have our name property on there, and it has a prototype attached to it. Inside that prototype is a greet method, so we're seeing everything's in place. If I now do obj.greet, it's going to use the method from the prototype, and we're going to get hi Stephen on the console. So object.create is what we want to use to attach prototypes to the objects we create with the factory function. So let's move on to the next topic, and we'll look at how we incorporate object.create with the factory function pattern.